helped me to reach 2,000 subscribers. When Daniel slammed the door that night, I thought it was just another argument. But the look in his eyes, cold, hollow, almost terrified, told me he had seen something he was never meant to see. My phone was still on the kitchen counter, the screen glowing faintly. A message, a name, a sentence that ruined everything. I miss the way you taste during meetings. 8 years later, I still hear that line echoing every time I close my eyes. Back then, I told myself it was just an emotional connection, a fleeting mistake, a way to feel alive in the monotony of marriage. My boss, Richard, was charming, intelligent, and relentless. I was 28, overworked, and underappreciated, both at home and at the office. He noticed me in ways Daniel no longer did. A compliment here, a lingering touch there, until one late night at work when our hands brushed and I didn't pull away. But Daniel found out. He didn't scream or hit or curse. He just looked at me with that raw, quiet devastation that makes you wish someone would just yell instead. The next morning, he was gone. No words, no note, just silence in a half-empty closet. For 8 years, that silence became my punishment. I rebuilt my life on guilt and regret. I stopped wearing perfume because the scent reminded me of the nights I came home smelling like lies. I avoided mirrors because my reflection looked too much like the woman who betrayed everything she once vowed. And then, last week, he called. His voice was lower, steadier, more distant. "Claire," he said, "I need to see you. It's about something important." For 2 days, I tried to guess what it could be. Closure? Revenge? Maybe he wanted to forgive me. Maybe, after 8 long years, he wanted to know why. I met him at a quiet cafe near the harbor, the same one where we used to go every Sunday before everything fell apart. When I walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. The man who once carried his pain like a shadow now had silver hair at his temples and a gentleness in his eyes I didn't deserve to see again. "Hi, Daniel," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Claire." He nodded, motioning to the seat across from him. No handshake, no smile, just that polite, careful distance. We talked about the weather first, ridiculous, meaningless word trying to fill years of emptiness. Then, after a pause long enough to make my heart ache, he said, "I'm getting married." My chest tightened. Oh, it was all I could manage. Her name's Julia. She's good to me. His eyes flicked up as if to see whether I'd break. "But before I do this, I needed to see you." "Why?" He hesitated, his thumb tracing the edge of his coffee cup. "Because I never understood why you did it." Why him? Why then? The question I'd been dreading for 8 years. The question I had never been brave enough to answer. "I don't know," I said softly. "Maybe I was lonely. Maybe I thought you didn't see me anymore. I wanted to feel wanted. But it wasn't love, Daniel. It was just noise, and I mistook it for something that mattered." He nodded slowly, his jaw tightening. "You know what the worst part was? It wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing how blind I was, that I was sleeping next to someone I didn't really know." Tears burned behind my eyes. I hated myself the moment it happened. I kept waiting for a way to undo it, but it just kept getting worse. He looked down, his voice almost breaking. I used to replay that night over and over, wondering what I could have done differently. But now, I don't want to hate you anymore. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined it. The faint tremor in his voice, the warmth trying to return where only bitterness had lived. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," I said. "Maybe not, but I can't move on without letting go of what you did." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an old envelope. It was yellowed, the corners worn. "I found this last month while cleaning the attic," he said, sliding it across the table. Inside was a photograph. Me, smiling at my desk, sunlight in my hair. Richard was standing behind me, his hand resting on my shoulder. The photo must have been taken by someone in the office, long before the affair even began. "I kept this," he said, "not because I wanted to remember what you did, but because this was the last time you looked like yourself." I felt something crack inside me. "I'm so sorry, Daniel." He nodded. "I know." We sat there for a long time, saying nothing, both of us lost in the ghost of who we used to be. When he finally stood up, I could see peace in his posture, a man ready to start again, free of the weight I had chained him with. I watched him leave, the sound of his footsteps fading into the rain outside. I thought that was the end of it. Until that night, when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a photo. Daniel and Julia at dinner, smiling at the same cafe where we'd met that afternoon. But in the background, behind them, I noticed a man sitting at the bar, older, heavier, but unmistakable. Richard. The caption read, "You always said I'd come back to haunt you." My heart froze. I tried calling the number. No answer. I checked the photo metadata. Location matched the cafe from just hours earlier. Richard had been there, watching, listening. The next morning, I called Daniel. No response. I texted, pleaded, begged. Nothing. Days passed. Then I saw it on the news, an accident on the coastal road. His car had gone off the edge. No foul play suspected. But I knew. I recognized the timing, the eerie calm before the storm. Richard had always been possessive, even after the affair ended. He once told me, "No one leaves me without consequences." I'd dismissed it as arrogance. Now it sounded like a prophecy. Standing at Daniel's grave weeks later, the guilt came flooding back, sharper than ever. Not just for betraying him years ago, but for somehow bringing the shadow back into his life. I stared at his name carved into stone and whispered, "I ruined you once." And somehow I did it again. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed again. A new message. This time, it wasn't from an unknown number. It was from Richard's old contact, the one I'd deleted years ago. Just 3 words. "See you soon." And that's when I realized betrayal doesn't end when the affair does. It echoes. It festers. It finds its way back into the lives it destroyed, even years later, like a ghost that refuses to die.